My Destined 1, Tensura x Arifureta by Void Kane. Ch.9. Rimuru's heart, before Rimuru decided to reincarnate. After the Great War and Peace return, Rimuru was sitting on his chair in his office signing his paperworks while looking bored. For him, he had already archived his goal, having monster and human coexist. His country became one of the richest in the world. His people are living with smile on their face. But even after all that, Rimuru still felt empty. There was a hole in his heart, a regret he wanted to fix. He wanted to go back in time to save Shizu, but for some reason, no matter how many times he went back in time to try and save her, Shizu always dies. Though Rimuru doesn't know why. Seal then explained to Rimuru that Shizu's death is an absolute point in time that can't never be changed. Without her death, Rimuru's journey to become a supreme being will never start. By knowing this, Rimuru will have to go into another journey to find his beloved Destined One, Shizu. After the Tenma War, Chloe confessed to Rimuru. To this, Rimuru replied by telling Chloe that Rimuru loves Chloe very much, and wants to marry her. After spending a few years with her, Rimuru finally realized how big the hole in his heart was left by Shizu. Even though Rimuru has been living with Chloe happily, he just can't get over Shizu. Shizu was the key to Rimuru's broken door. In short, there's a giant hole in his heart making him feel empty inside. Because of this, he wants to find Shizu's soul first, before marrying Chloe. Thus his journey began. He went back in time hundreds of times to save Shizu, but each time she was killed or she dies due to natural causes. Seal finally told Rimuru the only way to see Shizu and be together with her is to find Shizu's soul that was reincarnated when she died. Rimuru knew it was going to take a long time to find Shizu, so he froze the whole existence of the cardinal world without them knowing. This is to not let Chloe wait for him for thousands of years. But by doing this, Rimuru felt guilty because of his selfishness, so for them it felt like nothing happened, but in reality Rimuru had been looking for Shizu. Rimuru knew it was going to take more than thousands of years to find Shizu, so he leave the frozen cardinal world and Tempest to his trusted subordinate before he start his reincarnation. Seal suggested to keep reincarnating until he finds Shizu's soul, so that's what he's been doing for years, no, for thousands of years. Back to present. On Rimuru's side, he was pretty close to Hajime, but Seal told him not to interfere for now, so he slowed down on his descent. Rimuru is sitting down next to a fire he had made while he's surrounded by a barrier he made. Right now what he is doing is contemplating on what's his real goals and how far he had come. That's right, my purpose, my goal for this crazy cycle of pain. Since he had been reincarnating over and over again, he had to keep leaving the people he would meet, his families from where he reincarnates he would leave. Each time he does that, the pain in his heart keeps getting worse. But if it meant seeing her again, he would endure it. In his mind, he's already devoted on his decision to find her, so there's no turning back now. After spending a few years being engaged to Chloe, he began to realize how big the hole in his heart left by Shizu really was. The failure he felt was something he wouldn't be able to endure. He wanted to marry Chloe already, but what he needed to do first was save his Destined One, the one he failed to save. So first he went back in time, and after meeting with Shizu again, he revealed all that had happened in the future. Shizu was happy with Rimuru. She also felt guilty making Rimuru do all those things, but Rimuru assured her it was okay, he said. Shizu fell in love with Rimuru, and so did he. They loved each other very much, but one day, in the Falmouth invasion, she was killed. Rimuru lost himself and was about to destroy the whole timeline when Chloe appeared, calming him down and returning him to his senses. Rimuru in despair went back in time again, and like last time saved Shizu, fell in love, and like again she was killed by Yuki this time, and like again Rimuru lost it and destroyed Yuki. He would have permanently lost himself had Chloe not been there to stop it again. Again Rimuru went back in time and the same happened. They fell in love, and this time she was killed by Ivaraj. Again he was calmed down by Chloe. He kept coming back in time, desperately trying to save her, but each time he would fail and she would end up dead. Rimuru thought of just killing all the main enemy, but Seal had warned him by doing so he would change the timeline and the progression of his nation wouldn't happen. For the last time Rimuru went back in time again, but this time Seal had came up with an idea. He would go back to the present and find her soul that had been reincarnated instead. Therefore he wouldn't change anything. Before he left the past, he said goodbye to Shizu, promising her they would reunite in the future and from there live happily together. He gave Shizu a kiss before leaving the past to return to the present. After returning to the present, Rimuru had told Chloe he would first look for Shizu's reincarnation or maybe just her soul before they could get married. No matter how many times it had happened, he could never get used to Shizu dying in his arms over and over again. The pain of him seeing who he loved die in his arms. He couldn't just revive her like what he did with Xian, because unlike them, for whatever reason, Rimuru found out Shizu's soul had been broken. His thoughts was that this might have happened because her soul had a hard time being summoned to this world. Rimuru was afraid of the cardinal world changing without him, since he knew it would take a very long time to find Shizu's soul in the vast existence. Through his own selfishness he left the cardinal world. Rimuru felt extremely guilty about this, because he didn't want to be left behind, or he didn't want anyone to keep going without him. He wanted to find Shizu's soul, but he didn't want to leave his friends for a long time, so he froze the entire cardinal world. He didn't want anyone to be in danger, so he leaves the black numbers and the 12 patrons to defend the cardinal world just in case their world should get under attack. Now a few thousand years had passed and he was yet to find Shizu's soul. He never gave up searching for her. He promised Shizu they would meet again. Until he found someone in his present reincarnation that had the same soul but also very different. He waited for years to see if he could see a sign that she is Shizu, but there's no sign of her recognizing who he was until one day they got summoned to another world. Not only that, they got summoned to a completely different reality. This gives him hope. The pain of watching her die in his arms hundreds of times. He wasn't gonna let that go in vain. Shizu, I am not gonna give up until I fulfill my promise to you, he mutters and continue his journey. But unknown to him that time in the cardinal world started to flow again once he got summoned to another reality.